The massive alien ship appeared on a quiet Tuesday morning, casting a shadow over the United Nations building in New York. Its sleek, silver surface reflected the sun's rays, creating patterns of light that danced across the gathered crowd below. Inside the UN's main conference room, Ambassador Thomas Smith straightened his tie for the 10th time, his weathered face showing both excitement and concern. "They call themselves the Galactic Empire," General White explained to the assembled world leaders, pointing at the holographic display showing the alien vessel. "Their technology is at least 300 years ahead of ours." The room fell silent as the main doors opened. 3 tall, blue-skinned aliens walked in, their long robes touching the floor. Their leader, High Commander Vax, stood nearly 8 feet tall, looking down at the humans with 4 golden eyes that blinked in an unsettling pattern. "We come," Vax announced through a translator device, "to welcome Earth into the embrace of the Galactic Empire." His voice carried a hint of superiority that made Ambassador Smith's skin crawl. The next few hours proved difficult. The Empire representatives spoke of Earth as if it were a child needing guidance. They dismissed human achievements, calling Earth's space program admirably primitive and human technology charmingly basic. Ambassador Smith, with 40 years of diplomatic experience, noticed the warning signs. The Empire wasn't here to make friends. They were here to take control. "While we appreciate your offer," Smith said carefully, "Earth wishes to maintain its independence. We're happy to establish trade relations and cultural exchange programs as equals." The aliens' reaction was immediate. All 4 of Vax's eyes narrowed, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. "You misunderstand," he said coldly. "This is not an offer. The Empire does not make offers. We are informing you of your new status." President Garcia of the American Union stood up. "With all due respect," she said firmly, "Earth is home to 8 billion free people. We fought countless wars to maintain our freedom. We won't give it up now." Vax's translator crackled as he laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Wars. Your primitive conflicts with primitive weapons. The Empire has ruled 10,000 worlds for 50,000 years. Your entire military force couldn't scratch the paint on one of our scout ships." Smith watched as other world leaders joined the conversation. The Russian Federation's premier, the Chinese Union's chairman, the African Alliance's director, all united in their response. Earth would not submit. The Empire delegation grew increasingly frustrated. They weren't used to resistance from lesser species. Their diplomatic masks began to slip, revealing the arrogance beneath. "You leave us no choice," Vax finally declared, standing to his full height. "The Empire will initiate a standard correction protocol. You have 24 hours to reconsider your position. After that, we will demonstrate why resistance is pointless." As the aliens left, Smith turned to the assembled leaders. "They're going to attack," he said simply. "They expect us to break quickly. They think we're weak." General White nodded grimly. "Then they don't know humans very well, do they?" The next 24 hours saw the fastest mobilization in human history. Old enemies became allies. Armies prepared for battle. Scientists worked around the clock, studying the limited data they had on Empire technology. Exactly 24 hours later, Vax's voice boomed from the sky across every city on Earth. "Your time is up. Submit to Imperial authority, or face the consequences of your primitive defiance." Ambassador Smith stood at the UN building's window, watching as massive Empire ships appeared in the sky. He thought about humanity's long history, how humans had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and natural disasters, how they had always adapted, always fought back, always survived. He picked up the secure phone that connected him to every major leader on Earth. His voice was calm but firm as he delivered humanity's response. "We will not submit. We will not surrender. If the Empire wants Earth, they'll have to fight for it." As he finished speaking, the first Empire ships opened fire, their energy weapons lighting up the sky. They expected a quick victory over a primitive species. They were about to learn their first lesson about humans. Never underestimate a species that had turned survival into an art form. The Empire's attack began with what they called a minor correction operation. Their ships released waves of purple energy that swept through major cities, designed to knock out electrical systems and cause panic. They expected humans to break down, to run screaming through the streets. They were wrong. Instead of chaos, they found order. In New York, people calmly moved to underground shelters. In Tokyo, citizens formed organized lines to receive emergency supplies. In London, volunteers helped the elderly reach safety. The Empire watched in confusion as their fear tactics failed. Impossible, High Commander Vax muttered, watching from his command ship. These primitives should be begging for mercy by now. He turned to his second-in-command. Send in the ground troops. Show them what real power looks like. The Empire soldiers landed in their shining armor, carrying weapons that could stun entire crowds. They marched through the streets of major cities, expecting to find cowering humans. Instead, they found empty streets. The humans had disappeared. Then the counterattack began. Captain Tom Miller led the first strike from the sewers of Chicago. His team had studied the Empire's armor patterns and found a weak spot at the joints. Simple steel arrows, shot from compound bows, slipped right through the gaps. The aliens never expected such primitive weapons to work against their advanced armor. They think high-tech means invincible, Miller told his troops as they prepared another ambush. Let's prove them wrong. In other cities, similar scenes played out. Humans used their knowledge of urban warfare, developed over centuries of conflict. They struck from shadows, disappeared into tunnels, and used their smaller size to their advantage. The Empire troops, used to fighting in open spaces with advanced weapons, found themselves lost in concrete jungles. The biggest surprise came when the United Earth Defense Force revealed their secret weapon. Dr. Wilson and her team had worked non-stop since the first Empire ship crashed outside Moscow. They had studied the alien technology and found something unexpected. Their shields, Dr. Wilson explained to the military command, are designed to stop energy weapons and high-speed projectiles, but they never thought to protect against slower, simpler weapons. She held up a modified crossbow bolt. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. The Empire's losses mounted. Their soldiers, who had never faced serious resistance before, began to show signs of fear. Reports reached High Commander Vax about troops refusing to enter human cities, calling them death traps. This is unacceptable. Vax shouted at his generals. They are primitives. How are they doing this? The answer came from an unexpected source. An Empire scientist, studying human history, made a startling discovery. Sir, he reported to Vax, these humans, they're from what we classify as a death world. High gravity, extreme weather, dangerous wildlife. Their entire history is one long story of survival against impossible odds. Vax dismissed this report as unimportant. His next move was to launch a major assault on the human military base at Luna, Earth's moon. The Empire expected an easy victory over the primitive space station. They didn't expect the humans to be ready. They didn't expect the modified Earth weapons that could pierce their shields. And they certainly didn't expect the humans to turn their own crashed ships against them. The Battle of Luna Base became the Empire's first major defeat. Human pilots, flying a mix of Earth ships and captured Empire vessels, proved more adaptable and creative than their alien counterparts. They used the moon's low gravity to perform maneuvers the Empire pilots had never seen before. As the Empire fleet retreated from Luna, leaving behind hundreds of damaged ships and wounded soldiers, High Commander Vax received a message from his superiors. The simple subjugation mission had turned into something much bigger. The humans had not only survived the Empire's attack, they had learned from it. They had adapted. They had grown stronger. And they were just getting started. The Empire's research team was having the worst day of their careers. As they studied videos of human history, their faces turned pale. They watched footage of human warfare across centuries, from ancient battles to modern conflicts. Each video showed humans adapting, surviving, and winning against seemingly impossible odds. High Commander, the lead researcher, reported to Vax, his hands shaking. "We made a terrible mistake. These humans, they're different. Their planet should have killed them thousands of times over. Instead, it made them stronger." The report detailed Earth's horrifying conditions: crushing gravity, extreme temperatures, natural disasters, and countless deadly predators. Any one of these should have wiped out intelligent life. Instead, humans had thrived. Meanwhile, in a secret facility deep under the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Wilson stood before a captured Empire ship. Her team had been working non-stop for weeks, taking apart alien technology and putting it back together in new ways. "Look at this," she told the gathered military leaders, pointing to a holographic display. "Their ships are perfect, standardized, every part exactly the same. But that's their weakness. They don't know how to improvise." She pressed a button, and a nearby machine hummed to life. It was ugly, a mix of human and alien technology held together with what looked like duct tape and hope. But it worked better than either technology alone. "They think technology has to be pretty," Dr. Wilson said with a smile. "We know it just has to work." Across the globe, humans began implementing these hybrid technologies. Empire sensors, designed to detect their own advanced power signatures, completely missed the crude but effective human adaptations. The first test came in the Battle of the Pacific. Empire ships, searching for human submarines, found themselves hunted instead. Human subs, now equipped with modified alien stealth systems, struck from the depths. They fired simple torpedoes wrapped in alien metal, invisible to Empire scanners until it was too late. "Impossible," an Empire commander shouted as his ship sank. "They're using our own technology against us. But it's all wrong. It's not supposed to work that way." But it did work. Human engineers, unburdened by centuries of Empire doctrine about how technology should work, created combinations the aliens had never imagined. The Empire's response was to send in their elite forces, warriors who had conquered 1,000 worlds. They landed in powered armor that could shake off energy weapons. They carried guns that could level buildings. They weren't ready for mud. In the rainforests of Brazil, Empire troops found their perfect armor sinking into the earth, their sensors blinded by steam and heat. Human soldiers, wearing simple camouflage and carrying hybrid weapons, seemed to appear from nowhere and vanish just as quickly. "They're everywhere," an Empire soldier's last transmission said. The trees are moving." The Empire forces learned harsh lessons about Earth's environments. Their armor froze and cracked in the Arctic. Their ships got lost in sandstorms over the Sahara. Their communications failed in the magnetic storms of the poles. But the greatest shock came when the humans started taking the fight to space. Captain Miller, now commanding a hybrid ship called Makeshift, led the first raid on an Empire supply line. His crew had painted their ship in dark colors and covered it with what looked like scrap metal. Empire ships, expecting clean lines and proper military formation, never saw them coming. "Remember," Miller told his crew before the attack, "fancy isn't always better. Hit them hard, hit them fast, and hit them where they least expect it." The raid was a complete success. The Empire lost 12 ships. The humans lost none. As reports of defeats piled up on his desk, High Commander Vax finally understood. The Empire had spent 50,000 years perfecting their technology, making it sleek and standardized. But humans had spent their entire history learning to use whatever they had, however they could, to survive. And now they had access to Empire technology. "Send word to the Imperial Council," Vax ordered, his voice heavy. "The humans aren't just fighting back. They're learning. And if we don't change our approach soon, they're going to teach us what war really means." The Empire's greatest pride was their shield technology. For 50,000 years, these purple energy barriers had protected their ships from all attacks. No species had ever broken through them. Until now. In her underground lab, Dr. Wilson held up a small metal arrow. It looked simple, almost primitive. But inside, it contained a mix of human ingenuity and stolen Empire tech that would change the war forever. The shield only activates when it detects high-speed objects or energy weapons, she explained to the military council. So we created something that moves slowly at first, then accelerates after it passes through the shield. A video played behind her, showing the test results. The arrow moved slowly toward an Empire shield, passed through like it wasn't there, then suddenly accelerated, hitting its target with devastating force. We call it the turtle arrow, Dr. Wilson said with a smile, because sometimes slow and steady wins the race. Commander Rogers, leader of Earth's space forces, immediately saw the potential. Within weeks, every human ship carried these new weapons. The Empire was about to lose its greatest advantage. The first real test came at the Battle of Mars. Empire ships approached in their usual perfect formation, confident behind their shields. They didn't expect the cloud of seemingly harmless debris that floated toward them. Shields at full power, the Empire Admiral ordered, not worried about the slow-moving junk. Then, as the debris passed through their shields, tiny rockets ignited. Thousands of turtle arrows accelerated instantly, tearing through Empire ships like paper. For the first time in 50,000 years, Empire shields meant nothing. The news spread quickly across the galaxy. Other species, long dominated by the Empire, watched in amazement as human ships destroyed the supposedly invincible Empire fleet. How? An Empire captain asked his human captors after the battle. How did you think of this? Simple, a human sergeant replied. We looked for the clever solution instead of the powerful one. The Empire tried to adapt, modifying their shields to detect slow-moving objects. But humans had already moved on to new tactics. They launched tiny ships, barely bigger than spacesuits, that slipped through gaps in Empire sensor coverage. They used old radio waves that Empire communication systems ignored as background noise. They painted their ships with materials that absorbed Empire scanning beams. Each time the Empire developed a defense, humans found 3 new ways to attack. In desperation, the Empire committed more and more ships to the Earth campaign. This proved to be another mistake. Other species in the Empire began to notice how many resources were being wasted trying to subdue one primitive world. If humans can resist, whispered rebels on 1,000 worlds, why can't we? Commander Rogers, watching Empire ships retreat from yet another failed attack, received an unexpected message. It came from resistance fighters on an Empire-controlled world, asking for help. They want to learn from us, Rogers told the Earth Council. They want to know how we fight. The Council's decision was unanimous. Earth would help, not just because it was right, but because every new ally meant another crack in the Empire's power. The Empire's political structure, rigid and unchanging for 50,000 years, began to show strain. Worlds that had been quiet for centuries started demanding independence. Empire ships meant to attack Earth were forced to deal with rebellions in their own territories. In his command center, High Commander Vax watched his perfect world crumble. Reports of defeats came in faster than he could read them. The humans weren't just winning battles, they were changing the way war was fought. An aide brought him the latest intelligence report. Humans were sharing their shield-breaking technology with other species. Empire superiority, maintained for 50,000 years, was disappearing. Stop them, Vax ordered. Send everything we have. Crush them before it's too late. But as he spoke, human ships appeared in orbit around another Empire world. A new rebellion was about to begin. The Empire's time of absolute power was ending, and it had all started because they thought humans would be easy to conquer. The underground meeting room on planet Krax was packed with aliens of different species. They sat in darkness, watching a human teacher demonstrate guerrilla warfare tactics on a holographic display. Remember, the human instructor said, pointing to a diagram, you don't need fancy weapons to win. The Empire expects you to fight their way. Don't. Fight your way. The gathered rebels watched in amazement. For centuries, their people had believed the Empire was unbeatable. Now, a human was teaching them how to fight back, using things they could find in their own homes. On another world, Dr. Wilson worked with alien scientists, showing them how to combine their local technology with captured Empire equipment. Her simple approach amazed them. But this breaks all the Empire's engineering rules, one alien scientist said, looking at a hybrid weapon design. Exactly, Dr. Wilson smiled. That's why it works. They'd never expected. The revolution spread faster than anyone had predicted. Humans shared their technology and tactics freely with any species willing to fight the Empire. Each world added its own knowledge, its own unique abilities to the growing rebellion. The fish-like people of the ocean world Aquas learned to use their deep-sea hunting skills against Empire ships. The lightweight beings of the low-gravity world Minus turned their jumping abilities into a new form of space combat. The underground dwellers of planet Cavex taught others how to turn tunnel networks into deadly traps. Admiral Thompson, commander of Earth's space fleet, found himself leading an unusual army. His fleet now included ships from 20 different species, each modified in ways that would have horrified Empire engineers. Look at this, he told his officers, displaying images of their allied fleet. They're all different, all unique. The Empire wants everything to be the same. That's why they'll lose. The Empire's response was predictable. They sent more ships, more troops, tried to crush each rebellion as it started. But they couldn't be everywhere at once. While they fought rebels in one system, 3 more would rise up in others. On planet Krax, Empire troops marched into the capital city, expecting to find cowering rebels. Instead, they found empty streets. Then the attacks began. Quick hits from multiple directions, using human tactics adapted to local conditions. The Empire troops, trained to fight set-piece battles, found themselves lost and confused. Status report. High Commander Vax demanded, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly as he read the latest news. 15 more worlds in open rebellion. 30 more showing signs of unrest. And at the center of it all, humans. The Empire had never faced anything like this. Their usual tactics, overwhelming force, superior technology, rigid discipline, weren't working. Every world they tried to subdue seemed to have learned the human way of fighting. They're teaching them all to be like humans, an Empire general said with horror. Every species is learning to adapt, to improvise. The biggest shock came when Empire citizens themselves began questioning their leadership. Young Empire officers, seeing how their rigid training failed against human tactics, started studying Earth's military history in secret. Some even defected, bringing valuable intelligence with them. They talked about growing dissent within the Empire's ranks, about whispered conversations questioning why they were fighting at all. In orbit around Earth, Admiral Thompson received a message that would change everything. Representatives from 50 rebel worlds wanted to meet. They weren't just fighting separate battles anymore. They wanted to coordinate, to form a united front against the Empire. We've learned from humans, their message said, not just how to fight, but how to work together despite our differences. The Empire taught us we were all separate, inferior. Humans showed us we're all valuable, all unique. The meeting was set for neutral territory, a small, uninhabited moon. As ships from dozens of species gathered, Admiral Thompson looked out at the assembled fleet. Empire ships were all identical, all perfect. This fleet was a mix of shapes and sizes, each ship modified to its crew's needs and abilities. The Empire thinks chaos is weakness, he told his crew. We know diversity is strength. The Empire had wanted to make an example of Earth, to show why resistance was futile. Instead, they had shown the galaxy why resistance was possible. And now, that resistance was about to become a revolution. The combined rebel fleet appeared at the edge of the Empire's home system. 10,000 ships of all shapes and sizes, from 50 different species, each carrying weapons and technology that broke every rule in the Empire's book. Admiral Thompson stood on the bridge of his flagship Earth's Hope, looking at the massive fleet display. Human ships flew alongside vessels piloted by beings who, just months ago, had been their enemies. Now they were all united for one final battle. The Empire has ruled through fear for 50,000 years. He told the assembled fleet commanders through the communication system. Today that ends. High Commander Vax watched from his command center as the rebel fleet approached. His own fleet was larger, 15,000 ships, all identical, all perfect. But for the first time in his life, he felt afraid. They're not following any standard attack pattern, his tactical officer reported, confusion in his voice. Each group is moving differently. We can't predict their strategy. That was exactly the point. Humans had taught their allies that unpredictability was strength. While Empire ships moved in precise formations, the rebel fleet split into hundreds of small groups, each attacking in their own way. The battle began with what looked like a mistake. Several rebel ships appeared to break down, drifting helplessly in space. Empire ships moved to capture them, just as planned. Now, Admiral Thompson ordered. The broken ships suddenly came to life. They were human-designed trap vessels, filled with Dr. Wilson's latest invention, microscopic robots that could eat through Empire hull metal. Within minutes, dozens of Empire ships were riddled with holes. While the Empire fleet dealt with this threat, the real attack began. Ships from the water world of Aquas released clouds of metallic liquid that shorted out Empire sensors. Low-gravity species pilots performed maneuvers that should have been impossible. Human vessels launched their latest version of shield-piercing weapons. On the Empire capital planet below, General Brown led the ground assault. His forces included humans fighting alongside beings from every rebel world. Each brought their own special skills to the battle. Remember, he told his troops, we're not here for revenge. We're here for freedom. The Empire's defenses were strong, but they had never faced an attack like this. Underground specialists from planet Cavex tunneled beneath their bases. Flying creatures carried saboteurs over walls. Shapeshifters infiltrated command centers. In orbit, the battle reached its peak. Empire ships fought well, but they couldn't adapt fast enough. Every time they countered one rebel tactic, 3 new ones appeared. Their perfect formations broke apart as they tried to fight enemies who refused to follow the rules of war. High Commander Vax watched his mighty fleet fall into chaos. Impossible, he whispered. We are the Empire. We have ruled for 50,000 years. We cannot lose to barbarians. But they were losing. The rebels had learned from humans that barbarian didn't mean stupid. It meant being free to think differently, to fight differently, to find new solutions. The end came faster than anyone expected. Empire ships began surrendering, their crews realizing they were fighting for a dying cause. On the surface, Empire forces laid down their weapons as rebel troops reached the capital city. In the Empire's Grand Council chamber, Admiral Thompson and General Brown met with representatives from all rebel worlds. High Commander Vax and the Empire leadership stood before them, finally understanding how completely their world had changed. You cannot defeat the Empire, Vax said, but his voice lacked conviction. We already have, Thompson replied. But we're not here to destroy you. We're here to free you too. The peace terms were simple. The Empire would become a federation of equal worlds. No species would rule over another. Each world would keep its own culture, its own way of life, while working together for the common good. As the former Empire leaders signed the surrender document, General Brown turned to Admiral Thompson. Hard to believe it all started because they thought humans would be easy to conquer, he said. That was their biggest mistake, Thompson replied. They thought different meant weak. We showed them different meant strong. The Empire's 50,000 years of absolute rule were over. A new age was beginning. one built not on power and fear, but on cooperation and respect. And it had all started because one primitive species refused to kneel. 5 years after the Empire's fall, a young alien student sat in the newly established Galactic Academy on Earth. The teacher, an old human veteran, stood before a holographic display showing the famous last battle. Today's lesson, the teacher said, is about why the Empire lost everything, because they made one simple mistake. They thought being advanced meant being better. The classroom was filled with students from 100 different worlds. Some floated in anti-gravity bubbles, others sat in water tanks, and a few even appeared as holograms from their methane atmosphere homes. This diversity would have been impossible under the Empire's rule. In orbit above Earth, Dr. Wilson worked in the new Galactic Science Center. Her lab team included scientists from 50 species, each bringing their own unique ideas and perspectives. Their latest project combined Empire precision technology with human creativity and various alien natural abilities. The Empire spent 50,000 years making everything the same. She told a group of visitors, "We've made more progress in 5 years by combining our differences." The visitors nodded in agreement. They were former Empire engineers who had finally learned that breaking the rules often led to the greatest discoveries. Admiral Thompson, now serving as Earth's representative on the Galactic Council, looked out the window of the council chamber on the neutral world of New Hope. Ships of all shapes and sizes moved peacefully through space. Each one was unique, modified to suit its crew's needs, rather than following a standard design. "Another trade route opened today," announced the representative from Aquas, their fins moving gracefully as they spoke. Ships from 30 different worlds working together. The former Empire worlds were changing too. Their cities, once all identical, now showed signs of local culture and creativity. Their people, freed from rigid rules, were learning to think for themselves. Even High Commander Vax, now working as a cultural advisor, had changed. He sat in his office, writing the final chapter of his book, "The Day Everything Changed: How Humans Taught Us to Think Differently." "We thought we were teaching them," he wrote, "but they were teaching us. We saw their chaos as weakness. We didn't understand that their chaos was really freedom. The freedom to adapt, to change, to grow." In the military academy on Mars, General Brown trained officers from across the galaxy. The training program was nothing like the Empire's rigid system. Each species learned to use their natural strengths, to think creatively, to find their own solutions. The Empire's biggest mistake, he told his students, wasn't attacking Earth. It was thinking that different meant inferior. That's now the first rule in our manual. Different is not wrong. Different is valuable. But perhaps the biggest change was visible in the new Galactic Library in New York. In the main hall, a massive display showed real-time updates of new inventions and discoveries. Ideas flowed freely between worlds, each species building on others' knowledge. The biggest section in the library was titled, "Why We Don't Mess with Humans," a practical guide. It had become required reading for every species in the galaxy. A group of young Empire children visited the library that day. Their guide, a human student, showed them the section about Earth's history. "Your people thought we were primitive because we fought so many wars," the guide explained. "But those wars taught us something important: how to survive, how to adapt, and most importantly, how to make peace." The children understood. Their own world had changed so much since the Empire's fall. Life was more challenging now, but also more interesting, more alive. As the sun set over New York, Ambassador Smith, the same man who had faced the Empire's first ultimatum, watched ships landing at the spaceport. Each one brought visitors from different worlds, all coming to learn, to trade, to share. "They wanted to make an example of us," he told his alien colleagues, "to show why resistance was futile. Instead, we showed them why diversity is powerful." And so the galaxy had changed. The rigid Empire had become a vibrant federation. Different species worked together, each contributing their unique strengths. And at the heart of it all was Earth, no longer a primitive world to be conquered, but a symbol of what was possible when different didn't mean inferior. It was a new dawn for all species, and it had started because humans had refused to kneel.